Welcome to the last of our three-part series on how to get started with videography, and today we're talking all things audio. Now, they say audio is 50% of your video. Why is that so, Stuart?
It's because it's half of what you're experiencing. You're seeing it and you're hearing it. So your camera right now is an A7 IV.
Yeah.
An A7 IV, I'll just show you this one here. This is an A7 III.
Yeah.
It's the same thing basically. This has an omnidirectional microphone inside it. An omnidirectional microphone picks up sound from all around. As a result, it's quite tinny, it's quite noisy. It's not really what you would use as your professional audio track. It is suitable for what we call a scratch audio track. That's a track that you would use to sync with audio recorded on a different device. A device like this. This is called a Zoom Handy Recorder.
Okay.
Before, cameras had good preamps inside them, which meant that they could take decent microphones. You had to record your audio on one device and scratch audio on the other. We don't live in those times anymore, which is great.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely. These are still really useful though if you're actually recording atmospheres or other soundtracks that you might need.
Okay.
Okay. These days, what you'll do is probably put a microphone on top of this. So we do in the Creator Hub a number of different types of microphones.
Okay.
We do shotgun mics, we do radio mics, and we do dynamic mics. Okay.
Talk me through the difference.
I'll tell you what the differences are. This is a shotgun microphone.
Okay.
Shotgun microphones have a directional pickup. What that means is you would put it onto top of the camera like that, and then you would point it in the direction of the person that
And
is
it's
speaking.
going to pick the voice from...
It will pick it up quite nicely. Really good for on the street vox pop type shooting where you're doing quick interviews. It's also quite nice to put it onto the end of a boom pole and have it above someone if you wanted to do it that way as well. Really, really straightforward mic. Everyone needs one in their kit. Prices from these can range from about £60–70 for a nice simple one for a small inexpensive camera, all the way up to about £1,000 for more broadcast level type microphones.
Okay.
Cool. The next ones I want to talk about are wireless microphones. So there's a couple of wireless mics just behind you right now. I'd probably go with this one here.
Okay.
Cool. These are made by DJI. You don't need this part, by the way. That's just my display.
All right.
Cool. You'll see these all over the internet. A radio mic system will clip to the person where the transmitter is, and a receiver will clip to the camera onto the hot shoe just there, and then run a cable into it, or in some cases we use something called an MI shoe, where this goes completely cable-less, which is quite nice. These are ideal for interviews, okay? We're using them right now, okay? And we have a lavalier microphone attached. You've got one there, I've got one here. We increasingly see people using the transmitter and its inbuilt microphone instead, where people will clip it to them, particularly for online and vlog type use. That's become a really popular way of doing that. So that's the second kind. These are, again, relatively inexpensive. Some of the DJI mics that we sell start at £95, and the more sophisticated they become, they can go up to around £400.
Okay.
Okay?
So that's option number 2.
That's option number 2. Now the other one, I'm going to swing this round. This is called a dynamic microphone. These are used mainly for radio and podcasting. You wouldn't bolt this to the top of your camera. The reason people like these is they've got a really lovely, rich, natural sound. And that's why they're used for, you know, podcasts that used to be audio only. Now they're obviously visual as well. That's why they've stayed in shot a lot of the time. They've also got a look to them that looks quite cool. So that's what a dynamic microphone does.
Okay. And I see you've got headphones here. Why?
Okay, so when you are shooting, it's always advisable to actually monitor what it is you're doing.
Okay.
You will be able to see on your screen where the sound levels are going, and you can see whether it's peaking, which is when it goes too loud. Your camera will do quite a lot of the work for you when it comes to equalizing those things. However, it is good to actually listen to what's going on. So there's a microphone jack on most cameras these days, and you will need a professional set of headphones. And these
that's different from my everyday type of listening to
they are
on my phone.
They are. So I'll show you these ones here first of all. These are made by Sennheiser. They're called HD25s. They are the industry standard monitoring headphone.
Okay.
And the reason I say monitoring headphone is that they are there to give you exactly what the sound actually sounds like. They're not there to add any bass like some of the, like my headphones do for when I play music, for example. When you're shooting, you don't want the headphones to be giving you a false reading of what it is you're actually recording. You'll need something that actually gives you something accurate. The two most popular in the industry are the HD25s, that's these from Sennheiser. And we also do these Rode ones as well. These are called NTH 100s. These are really, really popular because they're a little bit cheaper than the Sennheisers, and they've got a velour pad as well, which are a bit more comfortable. They're also completely over the ear, whereas these ones still let you hear some things on the outside. It's a personal preference, but these are the two ones that most people use.
And how much would I be spending if I was looking at a
You'd
good
be
pair?
looking about 120, 130 pounds.
Okay. Just looking at your mics here, I can see that this one has a different type of cable.
One here,
Yeah.
that's called an XLR.
Right.
So most small mirrorless cameras like this, we use a 3.5mm jack input. That's where all of these inexpensive microphones work really, really well. If you move up into a cine camera, like this is my FX3, for example, you'll see that the audio inputs just here are much bigger. These are called XLRs. These are professional level or more traditional, I would say, microphones. So this mic just here is called an MKE600. It's made by Sennheiser. Again, it's an industry standard microphone, very similar to the Rode one that we looked at a moment ago. It has a narrower pickup, it's got a slightly richer sound, and it uses the XLR standard for connectivity.
Any other things that I should keep in mind when thinking about audio or mics that I should invest in?
Yes, there is, and that is wind protection. Okay, when you're outdoors, even if it's just a light breeze, it can be really picked up quite heavily by the microphone.
Okay.
Just to let all of the guys at home know, these don't do anything. They're just there to look nice.
Oh, really?
Okay, yeah. They actually genuinely don't do anything.
Okay.
They protect the microphone capsule and they do look good as well. You can also put branding on them, and some people like to do that, right? But what you really want is something like this, and this is called a softie. The softie will give you proper wind protection. It creates an area of still air around the microphone capsule, and then it stops basically wind noise from getting to it. You can get them for shotgun mics like this. Some of them go very, very big. You can also get them for small radio microphones like this as well. So if you're outdoors and you're using this as a clip-on mic, it's always good to use the softie. Some mics come supplied with them, some of them don't.
Okay, great. So Stuart, I've got a camera, I've got a lens, I've got my audio. I'm ready to start shooting, right?
You're nearly ready to start shooting.
What else do I need?
So you need to look at some other accessories like cages, maybe some monitors, external batteries, maybe some form of focusing.
Okay, do you have anything like that in the shop?
We've got all of those things here.
Okay, cool. Let's have a look. You said I need accessories.
Yes.
What do I need?
So the first thing you need to think about as a hybrid shooter when it comes to shooting video and accessorizing your camera further than just the lens and audio, which is what we've discussed so far, is to look at something like a cage. At its most basic, this is what a camera cage looks like. It goes around the outside of the shell of the camera, gives you 1/4 inch and 3/8 inch screw thread holes. This lets you bolt on a number of different accessories. I'll just show you what one of these looks like when they've been built. This is my R5C. This rig is made by Tilter, but we also do rigs from Small Rig and from Condor Blue and from other brands as well. But these are the ones that we actually kind of like the most, I guess. So that's why we've got them here. You can see with this one, I've got a top handle. Top handle means I can pick it out of my case nice and quickly. And all of these other screw thread holes here let me bolt on side grips and let me put on other accessories like monitors, for example.
Okay, and how much would I be looking to spend on a good cage?
Do you want the good news?
Yes.
Yep. Cages are not very expensive at all. Okay. Something like that will cost you about 79 quid. Okay. And once you start adding a top handle and a side grip, you're looking at probably about £135. Okay. Some of them are more expensive because they'll have certain features. They might have a lock where you press the top and you can twist it. You know, some of them might have something called a NATO rail, which is like a bracket that lets you grab onto the side of the cage and put your grip on that way. Okay. Lets you adjust it quite quickly. Those would be a bit more expensive, but as I said, at its most basic, you're not looking at very much for a cage at all.
All right. Cage aside, what else are we looking at in terms of accessories?
So the first thing you need to think about after your cage, I think, is whether you need an external monitor.
Okay.
I'll show you one of these. Why would you use an external monitor as well as the one that's on the back of your camera? Bad news, the one on the back of your camera isn't that good. The one on the back of any camera isn't that good. They're not particularly accurate. They're quite small. It's really hard to focus on them sometimes. A 5-inch monitor, or in some cases, a 7-inch monitor. This is a wireless version. You can get wireless versions of these as well. Is a really useful addition. It will give you tools to let you focus easier, tools to let you expose easier, and in some cases they will have recording capabilities on them as well, so you can record a separate file to the monitor as well.
So we've talked about a cage, we've talked about an external monitor. I still see a lot of accessories and I'll feel overwhelmed. Where should I look next?
Okay, cool. So cast your mind back to when we were doing our video about cinema lenses.
Yes.
I've got one just here. Remember how I mentioned that they have a manual focus ring and a manual aperture ring? One thing you will also notice about these is that they have a gearing to them. They're quite chunky, quite three-dimensional. This is so that we can use it with a follow focus.
Okay.
A follow focus lets us pull focus without our hand being on the lens itself. This is a manual follow focus. It will fit onto the side of the camera, and either you or a separate operator will be able to pull focus on the side.
Okay.
Okay. You can also, if you want to, use one like this, and then this. This is a radio controlled version.
Okay.
If you're working on a gimbal, it's pretty useful for someone to be able to pull focus whilst not putting their hand on the gimbal itself.
I see.
Yep.
That's a useful accessory.
Yep. So that's the first thing that I've probably just mentioned, a follow focus. That can be really, really useful if you go down the route of cinema lenses. The other thing, do you remember when we spoke about variable NDs
Yes.
and filtration?
Yes.
Well, the next step up from there is to use what's called a matte box. This is a matte box, okay? Matte boxes will give you protection from the sun with this flag that's on the top. You'll also be able to put in filters. So these have filter trays inside them where you can put 4 by 5.65 inch filter trays inside. That lets you use a variety of cinema style filters.
Okay.
Okay, so it gives you a bit more protection. The last thing to mention here is as we start adding all of our accessories together, sometimes we get a bit more of a power hungry camera than we had to start with.
Yeah.
And the thing I wanted to mention really was this. You've probably seen these, and I know a lot of people have. This is a V-lock battery. Okay. V-lock because of the shape of the V at the back, just here. One of these onto a plate like this, and this plate here is designed to interface with one of the cages like that, will give you a USB-C output battery on the back. This means that you can power your camera and your monitor and your focus gear if you need to as well. So updating your power to go V-lock is always a good idea because you're able to power up more accessories. The other great thing about V-lock batteries is a number of LED lighting out there actually uses this now.
Oh, great. Thank you, Stuart. There are a lot of accessories to consider. Anything else that I should think about while I'm building this video kit?
Yes. Is your tripod a photo tripod or a video tripod?
I'm a photographer. I've got a photo
You've got a
tripod.
photo tripod, cool.
Yeah.
So you need one of these. This is a video tripod.
Ooh, okay.
Okay. A video tripod has a fluid head. That's going to be the biggest difference between what you've got already. Your tripod head at the moment, you unlock it, you move it to a position, you lock it again.
Yeah.
That's not going to be useful for video. Remember, video, everything's moving. Yeah? We want to get nice moving shots.
Okay.
So what we would use is a fluid head like this. What's also important to note with these heads is that they have a bowl base like this.
Okay.
You've probably got a center column. Not always that useful for video. In video, sometimes, particularly for running and gunning, you need to set up quite quickly. And what that bowl head will let you do is level the tripod really quickly.
I see.
Okay. You can do tilting and you can do panning and you can do both at the same time.
Okay. And how much would I be looking to spend on a good tripod?
On a good one, I'd probably set aside around £300.
Okay. Thank you so much, Stuart, for all this information from cameras, lenses, audio, now accessories. I feel like I'm ready to build a nice kit for myself and get started with videography.
Great. Cool. And I would say to anyone out there as well who wants to do what you've just done, please do pop into the Creator Hub here on Charlotte Street. All the staff at CVP are going to be so helpful when it comes to you starting your journey in video. So please do come in.
Thank you so much. Well, we hope you've enjoyed this 3-part series on cameras, lenses, audio and accessories, and I hope that gets you started onto your journey into videography. If you have any thoughts, questions, do leave them in the comment section below. Like, follow and subscribe for more.